Folks, I need another minute. It's budget week, so let's unpack the Sask Party government's budget. Now, the biggest thing to keep in mind when thinking about this budget is the fact that inflation is up to 6.8%. So most increases that fall short of that will mean a failure to keep step with existing services, let alone improve things. But we do have a $1.14 billion surplus as a result of increased prices, mainly for oil and potash, just because of the brutal and illegal war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, most of these windfall profits went to large corporations. And that's because the Sask Party government rejected our call to put a tax on these windfall profits. So while most of this mind-boggling sum of money mainly went to, shareholders in New York, we did see a $1.14 billion surplus. The Sask Party government also raised billions as a result of their historic tax and fee hike that they put in place last year. So folks thought this was going to be a great budget. Investments in education after nearly a decade of per-student funding cuts, real investments to address healthcare collapse, and some relief for people during a historic cost of living crisis. Right? Wrong. One of the most shocking things about this budget is the near absence of cost of living relief. The fact that we'll again see deep cuts to education, and the fact that there's nothing really meaningful here to address the full system collapse we're experiencing in our healthcare system. An extra buck a day for folks living on the margin will basically guarantee that homelessness continues to climb and that our worst in the nation child poverty rates get worse. There's nothing for safe consumption sites, despite a terrible overdose crisis, despite the fact that the government's own internal memos show that consumption sites save money and lives. Under this premier, we have one of the worst performing economies in the country. Under Scott Moe, jobs grew in Saskatchewan slower than in any other province in the nation. Now, he'll tout the fact that we finally got to 1.2 million people, but we still have some of the worst rates of outmigration in the country, especially among young people. Speaking of young people, they can expect another tuition increase because there's no way that universities will be able to survive with this level of funding. Now, that's particularly troubling because we have a skilled labor shortage. Where do they think that skilled labor comes from? Budgets are about priorities, and they're ultimately about people. And we know we have this money, but what is it actually being spent on to help people? They're spending it on things like expanding jails, creating a new marshal service, a new provincial tax collection agency. So tried and failed approaches or pet projects that no one asked for. Fixing our income assistance programs that fall brutally short, investing in addiction and mental health assistance, education, these are the kinds of things that will actually reduce crime. These are the kinds of things that will actually see a real return on investment. So despite the fact that we're seeing windfall profits on our natural resources, billions extra raised by the Sask Party's historic tax and fee hikes, utility hikes at a time when wages are stagnant, and the fact that regular people are carrying a higher tax burden, this budget represents no meaningful investment in our future, no investments in education, in healthcare, no relief for struggling people. Far from being Sask First, Saskatchewan has fallen to the back of the provincial pack on so many fronts. And unfortunately, with this budget, we won't be seeing growth that works for everyone anytime soon.